So there are limitations to your dreams, but understand that doesn't have to limit you completely. So just because I can't make Avengers, well, guess what? Most people in the world can't.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for another episode of the Dave Bullis Podcast. Before we get to this week's episode, I want to say thank you to everyone who shares the podcast on social media. It really helps the podcast out. So as for what I'm working on, I just finished the rough draft of one screenplay, and I jumped into working onto the 8th draft of another screenplay I've been working on, give or take, for about a year. And, I was talking to Tom Benedict, who co-wrote Cocoon, which starred Tom Hanks, and he urged me to move forward with this project because I wasn't going to go back to it, but, he actually liked the idea as well. And then I reread it, and I thought, I can make this a lot better. So tell me, what projects are you working on? I want to hear what projects you have coming up, what you're working on. Tweet me at Dave_Bullis or shoot me an email. And also coming up on this podcast, I have Lane Bishop, who is referred to as Hollywood's book whisperer. And after her, Sergeant Pacifico, a retired cop. He's going to come by to talk what writers get wrong when writing crime and serial killers, which is everyone's favorite, right? But on this week's episode of the Dave Bullis Podcast, my guest hosts the #1 indie filmmaking podcast and has one of the most popular filmmaking sites on the planet. He's currently crowdfunding for his next project right now, which is called This Is Meg. This is episode 114 with guest Alex Ferrari.
You're listening to the Dave Bullis Podcast.
This man is everywhere on social media. I mean, Alex, I shouldn't even have to introduce you. I think everyone already knows who you are.
They probably doubt it.
They saw this episode pop up on their feed and were like, Alex Ferrari? I know him.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, they're probably more like, Alex Ferrari, not this guy again.
This guy's everywhere.
I mean, Jesus.
I remember the first time I ever heard of you, Alex. Scott McMahon, who runs filmtrooper.com, he actually said to me, hey, you got to meet my friend Alex. He's like, I just met this guy, Alex. He is, he can do everything. And all of a sudden, literally, like Scott was an oracle. And all of a sudden, you were like, literally, I started seeing your stuff everywhere. I'm like, my God. I was like, Alex, this guy, has came in like a freaking meteor, man.
Well, I did. I'm what they like to call aggressive.
Yes,
I am aggressive with my marketing, and when I put my mind to something, it's very few things can stop me.
A friend of mine, Mike Mahler, always says, "Live life aggressively."
Yeah,
and that's true, Alex. And aggressive doesn't mean pushy. It just means you're always plugging along. You're always putting that nose to the grindstone.
Always hustling, man. Always hustling,
yes.
man. You gotta keep that hustle going, man. It's so true. It's when I opened up Indie Film Hustle, I kind of looked over the landscape, the media landscape for our niche, which is filmmakers, and I hate to call myself a granddaddy of helping filmmakers, but I created one of the first DVDs that actually showed how to make an indie film back in 2004, 2005. Before I still have my YouTube videos up; they're still up there. And they say like 10 years old. I'm like, that's crazy. So I kind of knew my market, and when I came back in, I kind of looked at what everybody was doing. I'm like, okay, well, let's do this and. Let me see what I'll throw my hat in the ring and see what happens. And I have been aggressive, but that's because of my aggressive ways and the hustle that I do is the main reason. I think one of the main reasons for the success and the growth, the quick growth of the brand of Indie Film Hustle and especially the podcast.
Yes, very true. And you have built you're an audience. I mean, and like I said, in the intro, you have the #1 ranked filmmaking podcast, and your marketing is on point. And like Scott McMahon always says, marketing is the next frontier, and it really is true, man. It just the marketing now is so important. I just had Paul Pedito on here, and we were talking about that. What makes your film stand out? How can you make your film stand out if we have it up on iTunes or if we have it up on Netflix or wherever? It really counts so much now because the marketplace is, a little more crowded than it used to be.
Well, without question. I mean, I think we go back to the 50s, and when, you got that stereotypical distributor sitting behind the desk with a cigar going, all I need is a poster and a trailer and I can sell anything, kid. And believe it or not, I've met that guy. I have met him. He's like 70 something. I've met him in my travels here in Los Angeles. I was like, this can't be real. Like, am I in a Coen Brothers movie? Really? Like, no way. This guy can't be real, but he is. So, but it's true. I mean, in a lot of ways, a poster and a trailer are so important. Not only those three things, but the other big thing is a website. Creating those three elements, the trifecta of marketing for your film, and then within that there's a social media and things like that. But marketing is, if you don't know how to market your film and don't understand it and don't get behind, just learn it, you're done. It's really, really difficult. And me being in the business as long as I have and have worked on so many projects over the years, I've seen so many movies just die. Good movies just die because they're so uninvolved or uninterested in the business or the marketing of their project or their product that they just go to the first distributor that comes along and says, look, we'll give you no money up front. You'll probably never get paid, but we'll give you a DVD. And that's basically what the deal is. And it's horrible, but that's what happens. That's actually what happens a lot of times. With most of the times, not a lot of times, most of the times with filmmakers. And then there's those few that actually learn how to market themselves, learn how to put themselves out there, either self-distribute it or market themselves so well that a distributor actually pays them and get enough attention. So there's a lot of different, a lot of different avenues or a lot of different techniques you can use depending on what you're trying to market and who you're trying to market to. It's very different to market to, because I've done trailers that are marketing towards distributors, and then there's trailers marketing towards the general public, and then there's trailers marketing towards the fans of a specific genre. So there's a lot of different avenues and techniques that you can use to market your film. It's not a one size fit all thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. And that's sort of, finding that target audience, finding out where they are, what social media platforms they are, finding out, what movies did they like, you know what I mean? Like, just to give an example, Alex, horror is usually, everyone, that's usually the suggestion, you know what I mean? Like, even when Dov Simons was on your podcast, he was saying, he was saying, just put a bunch of kids in a house and kill them. You know what I mean? Like that, making a horror movie. And he said,
Dov, I love Dov.
And he's like, but that's, because horror, you know what I mean? Like the people will watch, a B grade horror film, you know what I mean? But, they won't watch a B grade comedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, with horror, it's the genre that's selling. With a comedy, it's the actors or the performers that are selling. Unless you have something so outlandish, so funny, so ridiculously, the concept is so high concept that it opens the door, then maybe. But it's much more difficult to do that. But with the horror genre in general, though, there is such a gluttony of product in horror. It's not what it used to be. I mean, before it used to be able to take 4 kids into a log cabin and cut them up. Now it's a lot different. You got to really come up with something really unique for the horror fan, not even the general public, but the horror fan, to actually even be interested anymore. Because before it used to be one movie every week or two. Now it's one movie every hour. Literally around the world, how many horror movies have been made? I mean, I've had conversations with distributors that just like, we can't take any more horror movies on. And if you do take a horror movie on, it has to be with one of those horror movie names that will help sell it. Because if not, forget it.
Like a Kane Hodder or Robert Englund, something like that.
Yeah, Robert Englund. They're the rock stars of their genre. So those kind of guys, or even Danny Trejo, which he's not a horror guy, but he's done plenty of horror as well.
Yeah.
He's done plenty of everything actually. But love Danny. But yeah, I mean those names would really help in that genre. So, I mean, we can have a conversation about marketing. Where because it's such a broad topic. Dave, tell me exactly where you want to talk about, and I'll because I can talk for days about marketing, about distribution, about branding, about social media, about web design. I want posters, trailers. I mean, you tell me, and I'll throw you some nuggets of whatever minor wisdom I have.
All right, I'll tell you. Why don't we talk about social media, because you have a course on a couple courses on Udemy about that. Mm-hmm. What would you say to anyone listening here? If they had a movie and they're saying to themselves, what the hell? how can social media help me? What the hell am I going to do with this? What would you, Alex Ferrari, recommend to them?
Well, first and foremost, I think social media is one of the most misunderstood things going on in as far as marketing in the marketing world is concerned, especially in the film marketing world. Most filmmakers have no idea how to market anything, let alone use a social media platform to market themselves. Generally, what I get on a daily basis, if not an hourly basis, is people yelling at me. Like, hey, promote me. Hey, help, support my crowdfund. Hey, and I'm like, you guys have no understanding of how to even deal with people. It's just like, are you kidding me? So the big thing, the very first thing I would do is one big tip on social media and any platform you use. If you wouldn't do it in a room at a party, then don't do it on social media. So in other words, if I just met you at a party, I'm not going to run up to you and ask you for money. I'm not going to run up to you and say, hey, promote this. Like, you don't do that. You build a relationship first. You have conversations. You figure things out with the person that you're trying to connect with in whatever way, shape, or form that is. So you have to build relationships first before you start begging and asking for favors. That's like, not social media 101, just logic 101, like, just interaction 101. So that's the biggest first step. Now, with that said, the other big thing you have to do with social media is not just announce everything that you're doing, not just project everything you're doing. You have to provide value to your customer base, whether that be your fans, whether that be people you're trying to sell to, whether that people you're just trying to make aware of who you are. You have to provide some sort of value. Now, with me and Indie Film Hustle, I provide educational value. I provide entertainment as well, but most of my content is informational based, inspirational based as well, to try to hit my target audience, which are filmmakers, which are independent filmmakers. Now, with let's say a movie that you either could do one or two things. You can show people how you made the movie, which is always there's a million of those out there. You have to do it really, really well, but you have to figure out who your audience is. So if your audience is filmmakers, then you go down that road. If your audience is horror fans, then you should be doing horror and entertaining horror posts, things that like you can leverage, the all the famous classic Friday the 13th and Freddy Krueger and whatever that genre or that audience really likes, and provide entertainment for them. So that would be funny posts, videos, things that you've never done, that has nothing to do with your brand, but you start associating yourself with this stuff, and now you're leveraging a YouTube video, you're leveraging a meme or a funny thing or a scary thing or whatever that audience looks for. Same thing with any avenue you go down. So if you're making a time travel movie, try to do entertaining things that are based around that. I mean, the best one was these guys had it good. Kung Fury. I'm sure you've heard of Kung Fury.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I checked that. I actually watched their the movie was on. I think it was on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. I saw it on El Rey Network. It was everywhere. And these guys, Swedish, if I'm not mistaken, right? They're like like, so they're not even in the game here in the States. They came in, made a complete 80s homage of like the craziest 80s stuff you can imagine, threw it all together. But if you study their social media, it's brilliant. It was just constant 80s this and 80s that and, funny stuff. And they were constantly entertaining people through their process. And then also interacting and interjecting their kind of 80s brand. So, the Thor guy, the chicks with the guns on top of a dinosaur, the time travel stuff that they were doing in that movie. They kept putting all of that stuff in, and it worked so beautifully for them. Same thing with Turbo Kid. Turbo Kid was another one that did really, really well. And I think they finally did get distribution, but they did a lot of self-distribution as well. But they were running wonderful social media campaigns. I was studying on how they did it. So you just kind of find an angle of what you're doing, but you have to provide value. And that's the big, big selling point for people. There's too much noise now. It's not just like, you're not the only guy with a crowdfunding campaign. You're not the only guy with an independent movie trying to sell it online. I mean, this is not 2006.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, very true.
You know, it's a different world now. So you've got to come from a place of service to your audience. And that way you build a relationship with that audience. Just like you don't start posting, hey, buy my stuff. No one's going to buy your stuff. No one's going to care about your stuff because you're yelling at them. You've got to provide a value to them. And that's one of the reasons why I think Indie Film Hustle has grown as fast as well, is because I try to provide good, honest value in my tone, in my flavor, in my stank, if you will, which is a unique flavor. There's nobody else that I know of doing what I do the way I do it, you know, and has my experience, has, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I used what I have to get my message across. So you have to do the same with your project. So that's one. That's not one, but that's a multiple pieces of advice in regards to using social media to help sell your movie. And then and then you have to build your following up. So there's techniques you can do with Twitter, Facebook, and, you know, Instagram, and then find out where your audience is hanging out. You know, if you're aiming at a 25 and under crowd, you better be on Tumblr. You better be on Instagram. You know, if you're a cooking documentary, you know, or a fashion documentary, Instagram and Pinterest might be your avenue, because there's more women on Pinterest than there are men, you know, and they are there to buy. So, you know, there's so many different it's such a broad topic, Dave. It's like you could go, I mean, days, you know, I could just sit down and talk about Pinterest all day, sit about Instagram all day. You know, it's like, it's such a broad thing. And I think it's overwhelming sometimes to a lot of filmmakers who are uninitiated to the world of the world of social media. So they're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm like, when in doubt, hit the 3. Hit Facebook, hit Twitter, hit Instagram. Those are the big 3. If you have video content, which I advise anybody have it, you create a YouTube page. If you can master those 4, you're in good shape. The rest of them are great. You know, Snapchat's awesome. Tumblr is great. Pinterest is great. You know, but you've got to just stick to what you know works and test things out. Maybe you'll find that you're getting more traffic and more leads on Pinterest than you are on Instagram. So then focus your energy on Instagram. You know, for me, you know, Facebook and Twitter are the big ones, though I do have a huge Instagram following as well. And so those are the big 3. And then now I've started focusing a lot more energy on YouTube. You know, I do Pinterest, you know, but it's not a huge thing. It's starting to be a little bit bigger for me because I'm feeding it a little bit more. So I'm kind of testing things out, but I'm also one guy. I'm one human being. If there was like 3 or 4 of me, I would take over the world. But for right now, there's only just one of me.
If there was 3 or 4 of you, Alex, you would take over. There would be 3 different presidential nominees. There would be Trump, Clinton, and Ferrari.
No, thank you, sir. No, thank you, sir. Not even remotely interested. But thank you. But yeah, so that's yeah. I'll leave it at that. I'll leave that as that.
Just to touch on something you said, you know, about social media. You know, some people, you know, friend of mine who are filmmakers in the area have asked me for, you know, my advice. And what I usually tell them is, if you're going to do a crowdfunding campaign, and, you know, I said, what I recommend is make a person in charge of social media. Make that person in charge of all the social media posts. And if you have the time and maybe you have the resources, have one person in charge of Twitter, have one person in charge of Facebook. That way they're putting all their efforts on this one channel, and you know, they're not just posting anything. Obviously it's going to tie into whatever your marketing plan is, but have that, you know, but that social media sort of czar or guru, he or she is the one sort of monitoring all that. Because I mean, you know, there's been a ton of filmmakers I've talked to, even on this podcast, where they even said it's so overwhelming. It feels like you're never ahead of anything. You're always playing catch up, and you never sort of, you know, hit what mark you're trying to hit, if you know what I mean.
Well, I'm a one-man band, which is not a good thing. Believe me, I wish I had a team, and I'm starting to build a team slowly. But right now, everything I do is all done by me. So all the video editing, all the posts, all the content, all the graphics, all the social media, all the marketing, all the behind the scenes stuff, just technical stuff. I do it all. And as you can imagine, it's very overwhelming. It can be. So I have some sort of tool sometimes, especially with social media, that helps. So if you are a one-man band or one-woman band, there's a great tool called Hootsuite. Hootsuite.com allows you to monitor post to multiple social media platforms and schedule posts. So for me, I do that constantly. I'm constantly tweeting out. I'm constantly Facebooking and LinkedIn and Google Plus and all that kind of stuff. I just do it all through them. And it's wonderful because you could sit there, if you're smart and you have content already built up or tweets that you want to kind of put out, then you could just sit down for 2-3 hours once a week and you're good for the week and you're done and you just, you're out and you're done. And then you just, you could just check your Twitter and you can maybe do some retweets and things like that or check your Facebook when you have some time. But that's it. So there are ways of doing it when you're a one-person team or even with you have a team. That's a great service. I don't get paid by Hootsuite. I just use them. They're awesome. And then I know you, Dave, you took my course, my Twitter hacks course.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And has it helped?
Yeah. Because I use Hootsuite as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always looking for that sort of that I guess, hack might be the right word. I'm always looking for that one bit of advice. You know what I mean? And that's why I wanted to take your Twitter course. Because again, your marketing is so on point. I was like, you know what? This guy is rocking and rolling. I want to see what Alex has to say about Twitter. And, I recommend it to anyone listening because Alex really knows what he's talking about on Twitter. And yes, it has helped to answer your question, Alex. That's my roundabout way of answering your question. But,
well, I know Scott took it, and I know Chris Holland from Film Festival Secrets took it as well. And I know Chris got I think he doubled or tripled his following in less than a month by doing my techniques and things that I was doing. One big free piece of advice I'll give anybody on Twitter: tweet and tweet often. And this all like, oh, don't tweet the same thing more than once a day or once every couple of days. Can I curse on this show, sir?
Oh, absolutely.
That's fucking bullshit. Okay, because I did testing and I tweeted out a lot, and I'll tweet out the same tweet minimum three times a day if it's going to go. If it's a new tweet, it's going to hit me in the morning, it's going to hit you in the afternoon, and it's going to hit you in the evening. And sometimes it'll hit you one more time. And I was curious to see what would happen. And I have now about 27,000 or so followers, which I've gotten over the last 6 months or so. And are all, by the way, they're all real Twitter followers of my specific niche, which are filmmakers. So people are interested in filmmaking. And I've had, out of the entire 6 months, I had one person complain out of 27,000. One person is like, "You've tweeted this earlier this morning." I'm like, goodbye. Dude, it's real simple. You could just hit that unfollow button, brother. It's all good. This is how I roll. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. So, everyone else seems to like it, and everyone seems to really enjoy the tweets and moving and the content that I provide. So, you can't make everyone happy, but that's one big bit of advice. I know a lot of gurus are like, don't tweet more than like BS, man. Just tweet, because I noticed that when I don't do that, my traffic is down from Twitter. The second I do that, my Twitter traffic goes up. Now, I wouldn't do that on Facebook, because Facebook things lag a little longer. Twitter is a much faster medium. So if you're not on Twitter when I tweet, chances of you seeing that tweet are going to be nil. Like, I think it's like 5% that you'll actually go through a feed, unless you're specifically going into my Twitter account to look. But on your feed, there's just so many things it'll fly right by. So that's why it's okay to tweet more than 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Generally speaking, I tweet about 10 times a day overall, if not more. And no one complains. Everyone likes it. My unfollows are not. I don't get unfollowed often, so it works. So that's one big plus I would give. One big piece of free advice I would give on Twitter. But I'm glad it helped you. I'm glad the course helped you, man.
Yeah, you hit on some things in that course, by the way, that others miss in other Twitter courses that I've taken. I use Hootsuite. I think I just mentioned that, but I want to mention it just in case I didn't. But I use Hootsuite as well, and it allows me to auto schedule different things. And one thing that years ago, I remember when I was helping somebody crowdfund, they actually said to me, "Dave, we know we're only supposed to send out one tweet a day." and I said, "Who told you that?" And they said, "Well, that's what we're always hearing is one tweet a day." I said, "What? One tweet a day?" I said, "Who the hell is going to see that?" I said, you have to be, I said, when you're crowdfunding, it's a full-time job. And also you have to have that strategy. And if we're using Twitter as part of that strategy, we have to make up, the sort of 75 25 rule, which is 3 tweets where we give something, and then that last tweet is where we ask. You know what I mean? It's like what Gary Vee calls, the what is it? The jab, 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 right hook.
Yes, jab, jab, right hook. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna give, and then we're gonna ask for we're gonna ask, hey, look at this perk, check this out. Would you be willing to donate? Stuff like that. And I think that's why I'm glad that nobody really thinks that way. At least I haven't come across anybody who thinks that way anymore. Where it's like, oh, we have to tweet once a day and that's it.
That's people who just don't understand the medium, and that's fine. And look, I didn't understand it until I figured it out. So, or you take a course and you figure that. And anyone interested in social media marketing, you got to look up Gary Vaynerchuk. He is the god. He was doing it back in the day, and his book Crush It is one of the big books that helped me even get started in this whole online world. So that book, Crush It and 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Those are the 2 books I would recommend anybody, filmmakers or just entrepreneurs, you'll learn a lot from that.
And now Tim Ferriss is just killing it in the podcasting realm.
Oh God. Yeah.
He is just absolutely, he probably has the top podcast because he had a guest on, and the guest actually mentioned a book that he one time wrote, and it was just had 1 pressing. That was it. And later on Amazon, that book was became such a hot commodity, all the old copies, that it was like there was like 2 copies left, and they were going for like $400 a per. And he's like, this is why Tim Ferriss. Yeah, he's like, Tim Ferriss has the most unreal reach of anybody I've ever seen ever.
Tim Ferriss is an insane guy. There was actually, well, we could talk about my other project that didn't go through if you want, the Anya Project, because Tim was in conversations with us.
I do want to hear about that. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So a lot of my followers know that I was attached to a project called Anya, who Paul Castro wrote, who's the writer of August Rush, and for no great reason, it just kind of fell apart. It happens. Things don't work out. There was no drama. There was no hard feelings. There's nothing like that. Me and Paul still work together on other things. It just didn't work out. So during that process, though, we did reach out to Tim to play one of our parts, and he did read the script, and we were in contact with Tim, which was really pretty badass. Because I'm such a fan of Tim's, and but Tim at the end of the day was he's like, man, I'm just too busy, and I don't want to act. I don't want to be my if I do act, I don't want to be my first acting to be like the co-lead. So I don't want that much pressure. And it would take for him, it would be, a month of Tim Ferriss's time is millions of dollars. So, and we couldn't even afford to pay him for that, but that was fun. That's my funny Tim Ferriss story.
That's amazing, though, that you even got him to read the script. That all alone is a victory, Alex, because, I know people listening to this are going to say, oh, my God, he actually got to talk to Tim Ferriss.
Well, the thing is, that was Paul. Paul he knew somebody who knew Tim, and it got the email out, and that's just the way it worked. So, it's about relationships, man. It's all about relationships. A lot of people are like, can you get a hold of Dave Bullis? I'm like, yeah, of course. I have a relationship with Dave.
Oh, no. Now, Alex, come on. No one ever asks you to say, do you know Dave Bullis?
I have 5 emails a day, sir.
Do you know that guy, Dave Bullis? He's a real pain in my ass.
You're clogging up my Twitter feed. God damn it. So, but anyway, so after that project, kind of fell apart, I kind of regrouped myself a little bit, because it was my goal this year to direct my first feature. Because for whatever reason, over the years, technology and time and a lot of things, the big, I'll tell you this. The main reason, because a lot of people always ask me, like, Alex, why haven't you directed a feature? Why haven't you directed a feature? And I've had many opportunities to direct features. I've been attached to many projects. I've gone all the way down to, even shooting parts of the feature, and then I get funding, get pulled away. I've gone through the gambit, without question over the years. But I always had this preconceived notion as a filmmaker and as an artist that certain things have to be in place for me to do it. Like, I have to have this. I have to have this camera. I have to have this cast. I have to have this. And these were all boundaries that were being, or obstacles that I was throwing in front of myself in an already very obstacle-heavy field that is filmmaking. I kept throwing more wood on the fire, more gasoline on the fire to kind of prevent me from doing it. So after the Anya Project kind of fell apart, I kind of regrouped myself and I started doing research on just low budget features, and like really low budget features, like micro budget or no budget, if you want to say. And what I discovered a ton of movies. I discovered Mark Duplass's work, Jay Swansberg, Lynn Shelton, a ton of those guys from Mumblecore, the Mumblecore movement, and Michael Polish, who did For Lovers Only, which was a DSLR, one of the first DSLR movies, and he made over $500,000 selling it with no budget. He literally had no money on that, but he spent no money on that movie, on the production of the movie itself. It was pretty outlandish. And he had Stana Katic from Castle, the star of Castle. She was in it, and it was just him, his brother, her, and then I think an occasional sound guy would show up, but I doubt it. It was mostly just them. Like 95% was them. And they shot it on a DSLR back in 2000. When did DSLRs come out? Around there. 2007, I think it was.
Yeah, I want to say around 2007. Yeah, that sounds about right.
So they had the first 5D. And they were just kind of like, they just went to Paris and shot a bunch of stuff. So I actually was really inspired by Michael's story, specifically because Michael's he's a real filmmaker. When I say real filmmaker, I don't mean to insult anybody who does shoots a DSLR, but he's an accomplished, not real, but an accomplished filmmaker. He's won Sundance multiple times. He's worked with legendary actors. He's worked on $25 million studio movies. He's the real deal. And when I found out that he just kind of grabbed his DSLR, a monopod, and a dream and made his movie, I was like, well, wait a minute. Well, why can't I? Because he was braver. He was doing it with shooting on a 5D, and I was like, well, I'm a tech guy. I'm a techie guy. I like to have my stuff look perfect. So he was limited with the 5D at the time. The technology was nowhere where it is now. And he made everything black and white so it can kind of work, because if not, it would look absolutely horrible. So he made a black and white, independent film with no money about two lovers in Paris. It's not like there's nudity all over the place. There's no nudity in it. So, and he went off and sold it. Now, mind you, he had a following himself, but he had Stana's following, and he leveraged that following to be one of the first big independent films on iTunes, and he sold it mostly on iTunes. But that inspired me to kind of say, you know what, I'm going to make my own movie. I'm going to do it now, and the technology exists now where I can make something look really good, and I got to stop putting boundaries in front of myself. So I did. I called up a friend of mine. Her name is Jill Michelle Millian. She's an old friend of mine. She's a comedian, an actress. She was on Mad TV, and she's right now in that new movie with Andy Samberg, Pop Star. And I called her up. I'm like, hey, I want to make a movie. And she's like, okay, what do you want to do? I'm like, I'm thinking of doing this kind of really low budget movie about, a comedian, a female comedian's life, actress in LA, who had fame at one point and is now trying to find her place in the world. And also she's not 22. So that whole aspect of things and how the LA treats her and how her own self journey is. And she's like, I love it. Let's do this. So me and her wrote it in 2 weeks. It's very improv based because she called up all of her friends who are all insanely talented actors, who you might not know their names, but every one of them you'll probably know their faces. And we put this whole kind of carnival together. And we decided, like, hey, we're going to start shooting a movie. I'm like, okay, great. And the crew is essentially consisting of me and me. And there's one more person, me. So I will have a sound guy come out on heavy dialogue days, but generally it's going to be me. So I'm DPing it. I'm lighting it. I've actually have the sound gear, so I'm basically bringing in a boom guy. I'm doing all the post. I'm doing all the color. I have multiple aliases I'll be using on this film, so my name doesn't show up everywhere on the project. But it's working. I already started shooting the movie. I shot some on Friday. So, and by the time this comes out, we'll probably be halfway done with the movie if our schedule is consistent. So that is the story of the movie called This Is Meg. And it's a dramedy in the vein of kind of like Your Sister's Sister, the great movie with Emily Blunt and Mark Duplass and Rosemary DeWitt, that kind of tone. So it's not a comedy, ha-ha comedy, but it's more of a drama that has comedic elements in it. And I'm doing it at a fairly low budget. Didn't want to put so much pressure on this. It's a small movie, and we're just going to have some fun. And whatever happens on it, it happens with it. And if we're able to sell it, great. If we're able to make money with it, great. If we don't, I already got 5 other movies that I'm going to be doing in the next few years. I'm already shooting my second movie at the end of this year because I have to shoot some stuff because of timing reasons. So I'm already shooting. I'm just going to start shooting, and I'm not going to care. And I know a lot of people will be going, he's crazy. I'm like, I might be. But at least I'm shooting, and at least I'm creating. And I'll be able to – don't worry. You'll hear about it, and I will market it. As you've already – I don't know if you saw the poster already. There's a poster already for the project, which will be – hopefully I'll give it to Dave so he can put it in the show notes. Because for me, it's not a real movie till I have a poster.
And just like you said at the beginning, that poster is critical, right?
It is.
You got just like the guy sitting with the cigar. Give me a poster, kid.
And a lot of people are like, "Oh, this looks real. It looks like a real thing."
Yeah,
it looks. Did you see? Have you seen the poster?
I have not actually.
Okay, I'll send you a link to it. That means I'm not tweeting enough. I have to tweet more. So we put the poster together. I already did a photo shoot. So I did the poster photo shoot prior to ever shooting the movie. So that tells you where my mind is at. So just because we're doing it on a very, very low key, kind of like, hey, let's have some fun with it vibe, I'm still taking the marketing of it very seriously and how we're going to put it out there and stuff like that. Because for me, that's half the fun. I like marketing it. I like putting my work out there. So, but I think advice I can give filmmakers is like, don't put obstacles in front of you, man. The technology exists today to go do it and go do really great stuff. Now, mind you, I do have a lot of resources that other filmmakers don't. I have 20 years of experience. I have a full post facility, which is mine, that I've built over the years at my disposal. And when I say post facility, I have a computer and the knowledge on how to use it. It's not like I have $1 million pieces of equipment. I have a Mac, with DaVinci Resolve, which you can get for free, and finish your whole movie on that, and Final Cut 7 or Premiere or whatever. I mean, that's not, it's not like I have $1 million pieces of gear that nobody else has access to, but I using the resources I have. So I have relationships with actors. I have relationships here in LA. I'm lighting the whole thing myself. I can make a phone call to multiple different DPs that would come out and do this for me, but I decided not to. I decided that I want to do it. I'm shooting it on the Blackmagic. I'm shooting it 2.5K. I'm not shooting it 4K. Why? Because it's a more pain in the ass to shoot 4K on this kind of project. So 2.5 is more than enough. You know what I mean? It's going to look great. And if I have to blow it up to 4K, I'll blow it up to 4K later, but you see, those are the obstacles. Like people will throw, I'm like, I have to shoot 4K. I'm like, no, you don't. Shoot 2K. It's fine. 2K was the standard for long time, and I hate to tell you, but 1080p is what still gets mastered. 4K is, we're still a few years away from 4K being the standard by any stretch. The technology is still a little slow. If I put my card in at 4K, I would get 15 minutes. So basically, we're back at film. 10 minutes a mag. And I'm one guy I'm the DIT. So it didn't make sense. So these are the things you kind of think about when you're putting a project together. And I'm not putting a tremendous amount of pressure on the project, which is a mistake that a lot of filmmakers make, including myself. Every project I've ever done, I've put insane, massive amounts of pressure on it to be like, this is the one. This is the one that's going to get me to the top. This is the one that's going to get me that meeting. This is the one that's going to give me that El Mariachi dream. And you know what? It doesn't work that way. And because of that kind of pressure, sure, a lot of great things happen from other projects I worked on, but you can't put that kind of pressure on projects. You just kind of do the best work you can. Do the work. If the work is good, it'll do its job. Don't try to force it. which is, I think, something I did a lot early in my career. And I think a lot of filmmakers still do today, because it takes so much energy to get a movie off the ground a lot of times. Well, according to old ways of thinking. But if you're knowledgeable enough and can do a lot of stuff on your own, I'm not saying it's easy, but you can do it. Look, I have no idea about audio, by the way. Okay, none. I took an audio course. Now I have an idea about audio. It's not brain surgery. It's like, okay, I need a hypercordio mic. Okay, great. I'll get that. I'll get a boom. I'll get this. It's not, and a lot of things I had questions about audio before. Now I'm very comfortable with. So it's not like I have this massive amount of knowledge that I know everything about everything. I don't. I've lit before, but I just took another lighting course online. Why? Get my chops up. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I understand. And Alex, so just when you were talking, it made me think of a blog post I saw on Indie Film Hustle, and it's something I've talked about on this podcast before. And the blog on Indie Film Hustle is, don't hire somebody just because they have a good camera.
Yep.
Honestly, if anyone listening to this is ever thinking about hiring somebody just because they have a red Weapon X or a red Mysterium, or a red Dragon or
an Alexa or anything.
Yeah. I didn't mean to pick on red there, by the way. But if they have an Alexa or whatever they might have, don't hire them just because they have this really cool camera.
No, don't. Look, the gear is. If someone showed up to me tomorrow, which by the way, I could get if I wanted to. If someone showed me and said, "Hey, I'm gonna let you borrow a red weapon," I'll be like, "No, thank you, not now. Call me in a few years, but not right now, because that doesn't make sense for this project. It'd be a pig to deal with, and it'd slow me down. So you have to pick the right tool for the right kind of project. When money's, just because it's free doesn't mean it's free."
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Just because someone hands you a red Weapon X, well, okay, great. Well, now what? Now there's going to be other things that you have to get involved as far as workflow is concerned, as far as hard drives are concerned, as far as, what kind of mount does that have? Does it have an EF mount or is it a PL mount? Because all I have is EF lenses. So if EF lenses don't work, then I have to get up. It's all of a sudden this becomes much more complicated. And by the way, if you're going to go out and steal something in LA, you bust out a red, they're going to stomp on you. But if you go out with a small little black magic, they're not going to, what's that? Oh, we're just shooting some video, no big deal. So there's things you have to think about. It's a bigger topic. So don't get caught up in the film gear, or as I like call the gear porn, like everyone gets all like, just pornastic about gear. And I was just at Cinegear, by the way, here in Los Angeles this weekend, which is basically gear porn heaven. And I'm walking around. I took pictures. I'm going to put them up on the site soon of all the gear. And I just sat there thinking, like everybody was just salivating over gear. Like it was like hot women in bikinis. I mean, it was this really, fetish. It was almost like a fetish. It was weird. Like, oh, look at the Alexa. Oh, how many K? Oh. I'm like, what the hell is that? You know what I mean? Like, it's a camera, guys. I get it. I love gear as much as the next guy. I saw some cool shit that I was blown away by, like these rigs that they use on Transformers and all these high-end action stuff and drones. And like, I was like, that's pretty badass stuff. And I think about it, how I can use it as a storyteller. But I don't get caught up in the gear anymore, where I used to. I used to be more about like, well, I need to have the best of the best and I have to make it look, because I'm competing with a $200 million movie. And the one thing I finally figured out is I can't compete with a $200 million movie. Not like that. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't do Avengers. I can't. It's not, and I'm not failing. I'm not admitting failure. I can't be 7'2" and play in the NBA. No matter what I do in life, how much I believe in it, how much I stretch, I will never, ever be an NBA player that's 7'2" and Cuban. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'm never going to be an astronaut. There's no Rudy for astronauts like that. I'm like, I can't do that. It's not something I'm able to do. So there are limitations to your dreams, but understand that doesn't have to limit you completely. So just because I can't make Avengers, well, guess what? Most people in the world can't, when they asked James Cameron about Avatar, do you know that there's basically one guy on the planet that can make Avatar?
Is it James Cameron?
I think that's it. Because there's nobody else who could walk into Fox and ask for $500 million on a technology that didn't exist, or we're going to build everything from scratch. Not Spielberg, not Peter Jackson, not Lucas. He definitely couldn't have done it. Don't get me wrong. I love George, but you know what I'm saying? There's not Fincher, not any of these guys had what Cameron has. You just couldn't do it. I'm not talking about directing or prowess in directors or anything. I'm talking about the practical things of a director walking into a studio going, I need $500 million because I'm going to design and create an entire new technology that doesn't exist, and I'm going to revolutionize Hollywood and visual effects. And there's very few guys, but I argue there isn't anybody else other than a James Cameron. So there's things that even the gods like a Spielberg or a Scorsese, these guys, they have limitations, So like if you tell James Cameron to make a $10,000 movie, he wouldn't even understand what to do. He's like, I pissed $10,000 in the morning. I don't understand. What do you mean? Like that's my cappuccino budget for the day. Like he does.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't make sense. So there's limitations both ways, guys. So when I finally decided not to try to compete with a $200 million movie and just try to compete with myself, then that's when all the doors opened up for me. And that's, I think, the most prolific idea that I've come across with making This Is Meg. That I finally I stopped trying to compete with Hollywood. I stopped trying to compete with other directors, other idols of mine. I just decided to compete with myself at my level. And I'll do the best work I can do at my level. And I guarantee you, if you continue to do the best work you can at the level that you're at and continue to grow as an artist, as a filmmaker, as a marketing guy, all that stuff, nothing but good will come out of it. And it won't happen tomorrow. You got to think about the long game. I'm not looking at this. I'm already thinking 5 years down the line. I'm not thinking about 5 minutes down the line. So you have to think a little bit long term when it comes to this kind of stuff because it won't happen overnight. But like one famous director said, Jay Swansberg, who has made 30 features in 10 years. That's right, 30 features in 10 years. Some of them, if you watch them, I'll be like, and I'll tell this Joe to his face, I'm like, my God, technically these are horrendous. But he made them. They had a good story. They were picked up by South by Southwest. They were aired, and he sold them. And he's like, well, nobody was paying attention to me. So instead of trying to be really good, I just became prolific. I'm just going to keep making them until somebody notices. And you know what? Eventually somebody will. Because there's very few guys or girls out there who just continuously pump out work at a decent quality. So I've been rambling, so please stop me, Dave.
Well, actually, I have a question, which is for your next film, are you planning on crowdfunding at all?
Oh yes. This Is Meg is going to be crowdfunded. We are going after $15,000 to start, and we're going to be launching that June 21st. Is the launch date for our crowdfunding campaign. Now, with crowdfunding, I'm actually working closely with Seed and Spark with our crowdfunding campaign. We're going to be doing some cross-promotion. We're going to be doing a podcast on crowdfunding and things like that as well in the future because I've never really done a crowdfunding campaign. Like, the first – I crowdfunded once 5 years ago. I put up something. I wanted to finish up one of my animated shorts. And I said, look, I need $2,500. I need to get, a couple actors and some sound. And the next day I got an email from somebody who knew me and they said, hey, can I just write you a check? I'm like, son of a bitch, I should have asked for more. But that was my experience with crowdfunding. I was like, wow, maybe someone will just write a check for $15,000. That would be great. But who knows what's going to happen? So now I'm being a little bit more proactive on how to do it. I've taken Emily Bess's course from Seed and Spark. There's so much free information out there as well, and I have a plan. there is a plan. We already started the plan. It's already starting to work. We're creating a launch team. So at indiefilmhustle.com/launch, where you can go and kind of be part of the campaign and kind of help us spread the word, launch it, and continue to tweet out for us. And you kind of see what we do and how we do it. So even if you're a filmmaker, it's a great thing to just kind of be a part of. I mean, even if you have 10 people on your Twitter, hey, you never know who it is, but at least you can kind of learn and see how we're doing it. Not that we're doing it right. We're just, it's an experiment. I can't tell you, Dave, that I've done this before. It's not like this is my 5th movie and I know what I'm doing. I have no idea. We're shooting the promo video tomorrow when we're recording this. So, and we'll be launching in a few weeks, actually 2 weeks. So that is the plan. And the big thing that I'm doing, because I'm going to be crowdfunding not only to Jilly's audience, who is a fan of her, and all the actors' audiences, but my audience is aimed at filmmakers. So I've done something very unique in the sense that I've created a membership site. I'm calling the membership site the Indie Film Syndicate. And in the syndicate, you'll be able to go in, have access to all the courses that I teach, as well as previews of other courses that I am their co-instructor or have made deals with other instructors. So you can have access to that information, maybe not the full course, but parts of it. So at least you can get something. And if you want to buy that one, you can. But it's more about the information that it's already in the membership. And we'll be adding new stuff every week. But the big selling point of the syndicate is that you will watch me go through this entire process, from the marketing of it to opening up the LLC, the legal aspects of it, everything that we're going to go through, we're going to be talking about. We're going to be creating videos about. And so you can learn how to make a very low budget, micro budget kind of film from the ground up. And I would kill for that. I know. I don't know if you would, but I would.
Oh, yeah. By the way, I wanted to mention, you talk about podcasting for crowdfunding. I'm so happy you mentioned that, Alex, because that's actually an idea that I pitched before to some people, and they looked at me like I was going crazy. They were like, "What? How the hell are you going to do that?" And I said, here's a whole plan. And if you're ever interested, sometimes, Alex, I'll tell you the plan I had for it. But that's actually a really good idea. And honestly, there is so much that can be pulled from podcasting and using it for crowdfunding. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could go on for days. And also, by the way, when you launch a crowdfunding campaign, you can count on me. I'm going to back you.
I appreciate that, sir. Thank you very much.
No problem. And it's interesting. I was going to ask, whether you're going to do it on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and now, I know the answer is Seed and Spark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Seed and Spark's great, man, because they have a much higher success rate, and everybody there is about indie film. They're not about the belt that happens to transform into a shoe. So
I just backed that project. By the way,
it's you and that other guy, but
still believe in it. Alex.
I know. It's a genius. It's genius technology, but Seed and Spark I just chose because I thought they were going to be the best match for what we're doing and what our goals are. So we'll see how it goes. Like, again, this is all a big test. So to come on the ride, all you have to do is go to indiefilmhustle.com/full access, and you can sign up for to be notified when the syndicate opens. But I think by the time this launches, it'll probably be open already. So full access will then turn right into the sign up page, and it's going to be pretty cool, man. I would have killed for something like this. I would kill for something like this now. Like if somebody else had gone down the road within the last 6 months to a year and showed you the entire process of how they did everything all the way up to distribution, whether self-distribution or making a deal with another distributor, I would kill for that. And it's very affordable. I'm doing the pricing at $17 a month. If you donate into the campaign, you're going to get a big deal from it. So we're creating our incentives right now, but you'll get like 3 month, 6 month packages and so on if you help us out in the crowdfunding campaign. So, and all the money that goes into the syndicate is going to go to help make the movie. So we're doing a lot of testing. We're going to figure a whole bunch of stuff out. And then for the crowdfunding campaign, you can go to thisismeg.com, which will take you straight to the crowdfunding campaign. And then when the crowdfunding campaign's over, it'll take you straight to the This Is Meg website. So you can find out what's going on with This Is Meg.
See, Alex Ferrari. He's got it all figured out, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't know about all that, my friend. I don't know about all that. But yeah, man, we'll see. We'll see how this whole thing goes. You know, I've always wanted to do a membership site, and I think there's a lot of value in those kind of things. Haven't seen a whole lot of them that I would pay money for. So, but for this, I think between the marketing and the filmmaking background, I mean, there's going to probably be 40 hours of stuff already up there when I launch. And then I'm already starting to cut deals with other courses and other instructors to come in and do coursework and things like that. So, you know, we'll actually add a lot more stuff that on the courses in the syndicate than we did on the Udemy courses. So the Udemy courses will sit there and they'll have a bunch of stuff, but we'll be continuously adding stuff in the syndicate constantly every month. And we're going to be doing Google Hangouts. So you'll be able to talk to me and maybe some guests as well about what's going on in the project, and then you could ask questions. So it's very interactive. So it's a real big learning experience for any filmmaker trying to get something off the ground. So I hope, like I said, man, I hope it works. I'm just trying to help. I'm trying to help my community, and hopefully they can help me. So by helping me, they help themselves in the sense. So if I'm able to make this movie, I could, you know, show them how I make it, and hopefully we'll be able to grow together, which is what the goal of building a community should be about.
I completely agree. And I have a feeling, Alex, that you're just going to hit a home run with this project and the crowdfunding goal. I just have a feeling, Alex. Call me crazy. But,
we'll see. Oh, man. Hope, man. You're very optimistic, brother. I'm scared to death. So we'll see.
Yeah, see, it's easy for me to be optimistic. I'm just
very easy for you to be optimistic. I'm scared to death. I'm like, oh, man, am I going to make $5 on this? Like, who's going to, besides mom, you know, who's going to donate to this thing?
You got your mom and me.
Yeah, I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate that very much.
So there's 2 people already. So there's at least $10 right there.
Absolutely.
But you know, Alex, I mean, we've been talking for almost an hour now.
I'm good if you want to talk about anything else. I have at least another 30 minutes, so it's up to you.
Well, I actually have to run.
Okay.
I could talk to you all day, and I actually have to run. There's been like 2 knocks on my door, and I have no idea what the hell that was. So I got to go check that out. But Alex, in closing, is there anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to mention to sort of put a period at the end of this whole conversation?
I think the big thing is to follow your dreams. Don't let anyone tell you can't do it, but don't be naive in thinking that a dream and the want of that dream is enough to make it happen, because it's not. Because I've wanted to do what I'm doing right now for 20 years. And I've wanted it very badly. So you actually have to put things in motion. You have to educate yourself. You have to spend the time to build relationships. You've got to learn about areas of the business that you might not ever want to know about. Like, I don't want to know about audio. It's something I've hated audio since I was in film school. It's just something I don't do well. But guess what? I had to learn it so I can move forward, and I can't let that stop me. You know, something as simple as audio. So you have to educate yourself and be smart about what you're trying to achieve, whatever that might be and whatever goal that might be. But just educate yourself as much as humanly possible and put in that work, man. Put in that work, put in that hustle without question. And if you want to check me out, I'm at indiefilmhustle.com. And I'm sure Dave has some of the best show notes in the business. So you can check out the show notes for all the other links that we talked about on the show.
Alex, you're too kind, sir. You know, I basically it's a mirror image of whatever you do, and like Tim Ferriss, that's my show notes. So you know.
And one other thing, I got. Do you listen to Entrepreneur on Fire?
Oh, absolutely. I love John Lee.
I just got interviewed by John Lee, so I'm actually going to be on the show July 28th. He told me, so July 28th I'll be on the show, and I talk a little bit about the back end business of Indie Film Hustle, because that's what he's all about. So it was a really fun show. So that'll be cool.
Well, there you go. You got the 2 top podcasters. You got Tim Ferriss, and then you got John Lee Dumas. You know, if you could get on the Tim Ferriss show, that would be it. that would be it, Alex. You would officially have reached a mountain that few have ever even seen. The base of.
I have to work. I have to work a little harder. Maybe win an Oscar or 2 before Tim will talk to me.
I've had friends who have gone on the Joe Rogan podcast, and they said afterwards their stuff just starts selling left and right. You know what, Alex? I should become like your manager or agent and try to get you on all these other podcasts.
You know, we should talk about that, sir. I'm all about it. I'm all about it, brother. I'm all about it.
Alex, it is a pleasure as always, man. I could talk to you for days. And as anyone can tell, Alex, I mean, you're like one of those guys who I've run into who it feels like I've known you for years. Even though I've only probably known you for what, a year and a half, 2 years, it feels like I've known you for like 20 years.
Exactly.
So everyone, please check out all Alex's stuff. Alex is absolutely phenomenal. And like I said, he hosts the #1 ranked filmmaking podcast and the insanely popular Indie Film Hustle. He's on podcasts with John Lee Dumas now. This man is a superstar. And one day I'm going to be able to say, hey, everyone, I knew Alex Ferrari before he became big. And he'll be like, no, you didn't, Dave. Shut the hell up.
I have proof. Look, listen to this podcast.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I'll say he actually gave me compliments, too. So.
For the record, I do know Dave Bullis, and he's awesome.
Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, brother.
Everyone, you can find me, DaveBullis.com. Twitter, it's @Dave_Bullis. I'm going to link to everything Alex and I talked about in the show notes. Alex Ferrari, I want to wish you the best of luck, sir.
Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate all your help, man.
Oh, anytime. I appreciate it. All your help as well.
Thanks, man.
Take care, Alex.
Find Dave at davebullis.com. Please make sure to subscribe and share the podcast.